This is a neural network, basically a series of algorithms that find solutions to specific problems. Inputs in the first layer, hidden layers in the middle, outputs in the last. Oftentimes, it is said to simulate the functioning of an Indian parent's human brain. Like, that's something I like to say, it's accurate and concise. But coming back, what if I told you that this neural network right here is incomplete, but more importantly, is a summary of my life till now? A very obvious chronology I can create over here is of the people who came in my life and who stayed. The input layer is filled with all these groups of people I had superficial bonds with, represented by these circles called nodes. The input layer slowly started filtering out certain people and moving on to the second layer with one or two less groups of friends. And you can just map out the progress from there. After the pandemic, I ended up with the current layer of a few small groups of friends I truly cherish being with. But necessarily, I keep no expectations for how the future layers will turn out. Now, let's dive deep into what is behind this diagram and see how it relates with my life and probably yours too. A neural network goes through multiple iterations, from the first layer to the last being one whole iteration before it actually solves the problem it needs to. In the initial stages of training, a neural network isn't that trained, so it gives the worst outputs relative to how it performs later on. Similarly, in primary school, I struggled to get good enough grades, follow everything the teacher said correctly, and so on. But after probably 1,000 days in, 1,000 iterations, I gained the mindfulness of a more dedicated student. The input I received became richer every day, and simultaneously the way I processed everything became more efficient every day. And that improved my output. Every day's output just had to be better than the previous ones, and that seems like the perfect ideology, right? Right? But the fact is, with more iterations in the neural network, it isn't necessarily going to affect anything. It's basically of no use if the validation and the training errors are high. A validation error defines how well a neural network fits to the data it has never been trained on. So it's completely new data. And if we apply to our lives, we are also subjected to so many unexpected hassles. And in a majority of the cases, it takes a lot of time to get back on the right trajectory. And many a times, unfortunately, it's not the same one we started off with. That is where the notion of acceptance comes in, right? No matter how bad the reality is, you have to accept it. But diverting from this for now, as high schoolers, let's take a moment and think, how do you ensure that you progress on the right trajectory ultimately? Now, there is no set formula that can take in subjective details and output the right trajectory for someone. But there is one thing good about this typical high schooler's web that we are mandated to navigate through. We can start this journey in any direction we want to, go in any direction from there, and end at any direction we want to. Because if you visualize a round spiderweb in front of you right now, and assuming you're in the center of it, you can go in any direction around you and follow any path you want to at any point in time. And that's how much freedom you get to control. But that's not to say that there won't be a spider in any of those paths trying to force you onto a different path. That's not to say that the web will not be sticky enough to hold you in the same place for weeks, months, or years. Should you become lazy and give up on getting out of it? Now, hopefully these geeky and analogical explanations have helped me get into your head enough, because now I'm moving on to every high schooler's weak spot, talking and learning about the real stuff. Obviously, this is not going to be a typical mindfulness session where I end up telling you to take 3 breaths and live life to the fullest, bacha. No, thank you. But what I am focusing on are the aspects of your life that only you can control. Because if there is something happening that you can't possibly control, you just shouldn't worry about it enough to affect the consistency of things you do control in your life. And one of those things is your sole dedication for something you're highly passionate about. And this is not the conventional, I want to learn more kind of dedication I'm talking about over here. let me explain how I use my passion for coding to not only enhance my academic prowess, but optimize my personal life. Basically, make my life revolve around it so that every single day I have something positive surrounding me, something I can look up to. And many people might not have realized it yet, but it is a divine, liberating, and self actualizing feeling to have a passion like this, one which defines your personality and makes you much more independent. Computer science, more specifically programming, is not just a subject I study every single day, but a medium of self-expression. Because no matter how widespread a skill it is, it's something individual and something unique to me. Like, what do you give your friends on their birthdays? A meaningful letter, a tangible gift, probably a compilation of all your memories together. I give them computer programs. I just find what troubles them most in daily life, and I make a program to either remove it completely like a good friend or make that trouble more of a trouble, because what are friends for? And not only that, I've automated so many tasks on my computer. Like every single day I wake up, first thing I do is run a program that opens every tab, every window I need for the day, and notifies me with a motivational quote from Winston Churchill, because obviously no pro speech is complete without a quote from Winston Churchill once said. And yeah, so my point over here is the more you make your life about something you can love and is only dependent on you, the more purposeful, stable, and fun loving your life becomes for you. It's a hard journey to know things that you're highly passionate about, but one such quality distinguishes from every other. If you constantly seek external motivation to do something, you can filter it right out because it is never going to be your passion. Like, you guys know about this concept where you listen to a song you love so many times that you just start disliking it in the end. Yeah. A passion is exactly the opposite of that. You do it a million times, you want to do it more each time. You spend a whole day doing it, you don't get tired at the end of it. You make your life around it. It will make your life. And why is that so important, you ask? Because it's effortlessly constant if you want it to be. Not many things are like that in life. And since we're on the topic, I personally feel like I'm a Sheldon Cooper in this case, because even the slightest change in my life makes me become dismissive and dejected and rattled. And that is never the right approach. Then I tried chasing constancy in my friends' behaviors towards me and their relationships with me. And that wasn't right either, because unfortunately, it changed drastically the more I chased it. And so I realized I was done being foolish, hence made things that I can fully control constant. And that accounts for a routine. So yes, this typical Indian parent's brain is highly practical and you hate it. But it's right. You have to start making certain things constant in your life. A routine that you follow every single day, be it waking up, meditating, exercising, and doing something related to your passion for an hour or so, or reading 50 pages of a book before you go to sleep. So that even if something bad happens that you probably do not have enough control over, these are the things you can look up to, the constant things you can look up to and feel grateful for them. Sometimes just one problem is enough to make us ponder about our life and realize how unstructured it is. But this is the best way to prepare for it, I think, because they will help you find the positivity, that structure in your life when you will need it the most. And I think through this discussion, we can derive a simplified formula that every problem can be broken down into. If you can change something about a problem, then sit down alone or with someone who you trust or knows about your problem and find multiple solutions to it. Choose the best one and you're done. If you can't change something about it, that is exactly what you have to tell yourself. You have to constantly repeat to yourself that there is nothing you can do about this and that you have to accept it, because how long will you keep sulking over it? Unfortunately, there is always an imposter to such formulae. In this case, it is going to be your feelings that delusionally make a problem complicated. be it a toxic relationship you're loyal to because your feelings are too strong, or a bad habit you're attached to because it makes you feel temporarily happy. And this is the case where oftentimes our thoughts and our feelings clash. When you make up sentences like, I know waking up late is a bad idea for me, yet I keep doing it, that's when you're recognizing your thoughts and feelings are separate, but you just ignore it. So what do you have to do? You have to talk to yourself or talk to someone you trust and find the thoughts offering you a coherent path and choose that. Because it is the easiest path to choose, but the hardest ever to follow because of your feelings that expect a lot from others. But how long will you keep sticking to those expectations of things getting better autonomously? You cannot. And this is where one notion that I think every person should live by at every stage in life comes in. You cannot live life, you cannot wait until life is not hard anymore before you decide to be happy and enjoy every moment of it. Not every moment will be perfect, but the way you perceive, the way you accept it can always turn out to be perfect if that perception is ultimately positive and the acceptance is for the truth. And I say ultimately because for the first 2 weeks, it's going to hurt you bad. But you have to remember the next weeks are going to be more liberating and self-actualizing than ever. And I believe this is so necessary to happen because after an incident like this, you become so much more grateful for things that you have and caring for people you love and reciprocate. You will start seeing the world much more clearly. If your friend is going through something you don't know and acting quite unnaturally lately, you won't take it personally and initiate a fight to you've changed to me and all of that. You'll want to tell them how beautiful, how awesome, how smart they are, and how you're proud of them. Because what if that is what your friend needs? Some reassurance, a helping hand, a gust of wind to give them a head start on navigating through this web or getting out of a spider's grasp. If we can let go of every ego and become one of the reasons that makes a person even a bit more happy, then you are on the right path because you just developed something real. But let me bring you back to the real world because you cannot expect it for yourself if you do it for someone else. In the long term, your happiness is no one's responsibility but yours. People who realize and embrace this early are lucky, but you aren't unlucky if you realize and embrace this late. If anything, that just makes your story yours. Don't get inspired by other people in such a way that you try to crave your story by keeping theirs as a benchmark. The only benchmark you have to go ahead of constantly is what you were yesterday. And this is where this neural network might work. The main aim is to have more accurate results in the current iteration than they were in the previous iteration. That's it. The weights, these biases, they will keep on changing randomly, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but you have to trust this process because after 1,000 iterations, after thousands of days, you will know that every single past event happened for a reason. And that will be long after you have escaped this high schooler's web and flown into your own world. And I trust you that you will, and you should too. Thank you.